Welcome to the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame YouTube channel. I'm at Helinski. Got another terrific guest for us today. This one, a gentleman who played and graduated in 2015. Three-year starter, a four-year letterman, which I'm sure that's a story in and of itself. Please welcome this guest today, the one and the only Alex Molik. Alex, how you doing today?
Living the dream.
I guess so. For people who are not familiar with you, I'm going to start with the first question that I always do. Give us your background, getting into football, whether you played sandlot or came through the organized youth football leagues, and how you got involved with North Tonawanda football.
Yeah, I think it was 2004 was my first year. I remember playing for Mike Tuzo Sr. Obviously, a lot of people know Mike Tuzo, the quarterback, but I played for Mike Tuzo Sr. at NTAA, along with my dad coaching and various others. And I remember getting into it, and I did not like it. I didn't really like playing. I didn't like running. I didn't like any of that stuff. But my parents never let me quit anything, so I stayed with it, and I continued, obviously, through the years, and obviously some bad years playing. I remember my first year of football, didn't win a game. Second year, finally won a game. Third year, didn't win a game. Fourth year, won a lot of games, and then I guess the rest was history after that. But yeah, it was 2004 I started, and I played under Mike Tuzo for 4 years, and then under Randy Batt for a year. And then I started getting into the modified JV freshman varsity ranks. So
Who were your coaches back then on the modified JV and then varsity ranks?
Coach Craig Anthony, Coach Dagler and modified. I remember those two. Freshman football was Frank Fusco and Coach Barth, I remember. And then JV was Coach Miranto for the year that I was there, but not there kind of thing. So I played some games there, but I mostly practiced with varsity. So it was but yeah, Coach Morano was there. And then obviously I was with Coach Tom for my freshman year, and then Coach Trelizio and his regime for the rest of my time.
You didn't get a chance to play under Coach Jancy.
No.
Is that something that bothers you, or you wonder what if?
Yeah, I mean, it was I got a little bit of an experience because when I was in 7th and 8th grade, I think it was 2008, 2009. So the year of the state championship, I would be a part of the summer camps that they would do, where they would just do like mini practices, mini camp kind of thing. I would go as the weird little kid basically, and I would tag along. And I remember trying to understand the triple option and wondering what the hell we were doing, we're not blocking three guys on the defense, and then next thing you know, plays are working. And I remember being that kid, but that was the mild experience I had with Coach Jancy. Never played under him, I guess fully, but yeah, I mean, my whole childhood, I grew up watching his teams. I mean, that's what kind of got me into football more than anything, was watching those teams from, let's say, 2005, 2010. Just those were the glory years, I guess you want to call it. But
knowing all that and the glory years, when it came to be your time, did you realize or continue the tradition of NT football is serious business, and we like to win and we don't like to lose?
yeah, I mean, it's tough because I noticed, especially being around those teams that did win a lot. Obviously, the 2008, 2009, 2010 teams that I remember briefly being around, those were obviously unbelievable teams. And even so, my freshman year under Coach Tom, I think we went 7-2. I'm pretty sure it was a kind of a shock back in 2000, my sophomore year, when we went 4-5. I mean, that was kind of, I don't want to say you feel like you're failing, but it kind of did. I mean, it felt, and that wasn't North Tonawanda. That's not what every year I'd go watch with my dad. I remember, I mean, we're beating teams by 40. no one could stop us. We got shutouts and all these great things happening. And then I come around, and next thing I know, we're losing 5 games a year. And I'm like, what are we doing? And that was tough to get. It was tough to get people to buy in. I think that was the hard part. And I remember weight rooms, going into the weight room when I was a freshman under Coach Tom, especially. That's my first real, I guess, moment I really remember being in there. And I mean, stacked to the, you couldn't find a squat rack, you couldn't find a dumbbell to use. And as the years went on, it just seemed like that became a select few people in the weight room and doing all the extracurricular stuff. And it showed, I'm not going to lie. And, it's part of being a leader is guiding those people into there. But at the same time, I think at that age, being 14, 15, 16, I don't want to tell my friends that, hey, well, why aren't you in the weight room kind of thing. That's tough conversations to have. So I think all in all, we probably needed better leadership on those teams. I put a part of that on myself, but at the same time, it was tough to continue the NT way. It was obviously very high expectations every year, and I felt like toward my senior year we started getting back to it, but then obviously I left, so that's kind of it.
Besides the weight room, the lack of interest or waning interest, I should say, what else changed during that time period that you noticed from the Jancy regime, and maybe even Coach Tom for the couple of years that he did that, and where it was to where it ended up?
It's tough to pinpoint something. I mean, it was a lot of, and I'll say this. I respect all the coaches and all high school coaches, and I know it's a taxing thing, but I'll always say that high school football is very player dependent. Once you get into the college and pro ranks, that's when the game plans really take. You gotta devise something to beat these guys. They're all professional athletes, or these are all guys on scholarship these are the best of the best. So you got to think when he gets to high school, if you have the fastest kids in the state, you're probably going to beat a lot of teams. It's just how it goes. And so I put a lot of it on the players, not ability, but I really do think that we didn't collectively attack the game how we should have. And that's how I learned in college how to really attack and get better. And that, I mean, I know everyone says it, but if I would have known back then what I do now, we would have been so much better. But it's true. I mean, there was a lot of aspects of those teams that were so talented that you're going 6-3 or 5-2, and it's like, man, we really should beat these teams. I mean, but that's what it comes down to. I mean, and like I said, the coaching aspect of it, it was tough. It was a little, I want to say turmoil is not the right word, because it wasn't, we managed, but it was weird. I mean, we were under the same regime, kind of, I guess you can call it the same regime, because even the transition from Jancy to Tom wasn't a big change. I mean, everything was the same. It was just, I mean, we all knew Coach Tom, and he was always around. It wasn't a whole scale, who the hell are these guys kind of thing. And that's when Coach Delizio and his regime came in. It was a different coaching style. It was a different personality, to be honest with you. And it was a shock to a lot of people. And I mean, I was okay with it. I love Coach T. I love all those coaches that came in. They got me to where I am today, and I owe everything to them, I feel. But that it was definitely a change. Some kids didn't like it. Some kids didn't buy in. And that's, to me, you need buy-in, especially in high school. You need kids to buy into what you're doing. So that was the hardest part.
Why did the NT coaches take a shining to you as a freshman? It's not normal typically for someone to be play varsity, get a letter as a freshman, and letter for 4 years. Why you?
Man, I'm just handsome. I don't know. It's for the most part, I think I was I don't want to say a student of the game. I understood where to be and when to be there. And especially with the option offense and what we were doing with the triple option, that's a lot of what it is. You don't I mean, you watch Georgia Tech when they used to run the option religiously. None of those linemen are the big 6'7", 330 pounders you see playing on Sundays, but they all knew where to go, where to be. And you know what? That's what I prided myself in doing that. If I wasn't going to be as good physically as a lot of these guys, which obviously I wasn't going to be, I kind of taught myself to be like, all right, well, beat them mentally. And that worked. It worked for, I remember I played a little bit on both sides of the ball that year. Toward the end in the playoffs, I remember I was playing a pretty good amount of snaps on defense, which I didn't like defense, but I was on the field and that was what mattered. So I think I really think to summarize it, the main thing was just being a student of the game and understanding what I could do to be better or be in a position that I could play. And I knew that wasn't going to be out muscling these 18-year-olds when I was 14. So I figured I'd be smarter than them.
Were you always a big bone kid? And how big were you as a freshman, and how big did you get to when you were a senior?
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned earlier starting in 2004 when I started playing, and I didn't make weight. At NCAA, there was weight limits. You couldn't be over a certain weight limit. I didn't make weight my first year of football until the sixth game, I think it was. So I was a big kid. I remember being a little chubby kid, and every year I'd have to fight to make weight, and it was a nightmare. It wasn't fun, but I did it every year. Always a big kid. I thinned out, I'd say probably between ages like 10 and 12. I guess grew into my body maybe a little bit. And then when I started playing football and I realized I got to get bigger. These guys are a lot stronger than me and a lot bigger than me. So it's time to get bigger. I remember my freshman year, I was probably 230-ish, I would say. 6'2" probably. And by the end of it, I was nearing 300 pounds and 6'4". So obviously I put on a little weight pretty quickly. I like to tell people it's all muscle, but it wasn't. I can like to say it's all muscle though.
Were you the on the offensive line? Did you consider yourself to be the leader of the offensive line back then,
Yeah, I mean,
or who was?
it was the tough part mostly was my freshman year. Obviously, I couldn't be it, and then my sophomore year, I still wasn't it because I still had guys like Jake Clare, Chris Malott, Taylor Eckstein. Those guys were still there, so I was still playing with them. My junior year is when I really kind of said, all right, like number one, I had to do that because I felt like that was an obligation of mine to become a leader. I was never a vocal leader. I was a very lead by example guy. I was like that all throughout college too. You can ask any of my college coaches. I wasn't gonna scream at you and yell at you and tell you all these things, rah rah guy. But I was gonna do what I was told. I was gonna do it right, and that's what I wanted everyone else to do. I it was, like I said, it's tough. It's tough to lead in high school. It's tough to be a leader in high school because you grew up with these kids. You're so close to them. Some of these guys are your best friends. And if my best friend next to me messes up, I'm not gonna get in his face and yell at him because at the time when you're 15, that's not on your mind. So it's tough. I did, but yeah, I would say by my junior year, I think I was really starting to grasp it. And then once my senior year came around, I kind of made sure I had more of a voice. But like I said, it's tough. It's tough to be a leader in high school. It's sometimes you gotta make enemies, and not enemies, but you gotta say things that people don't want to hear, and that's tough when you're trying to be like popular or be friendly or have friends. So
What was your TNT experience like?
one every year. um, let's see. My freshman year wasn't close. My sophomore year was the closest game. That was the most nerve-wracking game I think I've been a part of until college. 17-14 in the rain at the old Clint Small Stadium. I think it was the last game there. And I remember we were down, I think 14-7 in the fourth quarter. And it was just, you get that going through your mind, like, don't don't be the team, don't be the team. And we weren't. I mean, I will say that we weren't. But yeah, then junior year won by a lot. I don't know. My senior year won by a lot. I don't think I played in the second half my senior year. So yeah, I still tell people about it. To me, it's that those 4 years and doing that for those weeks, that's still some of the most fun you ever had. I mean, it was a riot. I think about it. My wife's sister, she's in high school now, and she's kind of experiencing it too. And it's kind of, yeah, it's just, I don't know. And there might be a bunch of schools that have stuff like that, but I don't know. That's what I experienced. I thought it was the best thing in the world. And as I go to college, I'm telling all these people that, oh, we've been playing this team for hundreds of years and all these things, and we beat them all the time. And it's, but yeah, I'll never forget those. Those games were a little extra, even though they might not have been the best team, but it was just something. There was a little something extra in all those games.
You played with Malott. You played with Chris Woodward. You also did well, second team Western New York, fourth team New York State, all New York State. Who were some of the other guys that you played with that should have gotten some accolades like you guys did?
Oh, I mean, it was my senior year is when the accolades really started coming in, and obviously myself and Chris and Taylor were, I think, the three all Western New York guys. But I mean, I truly remember plenty of good players playing with them. There's a lot of, to me, there was a lot of guys who didn't understand how good they actually were or how good they could be. One guy I always think of is Drew Krantz. He good corner, good receiver. I mean, all around good, great athlete. I mean, he was a guy that I thought probably could have played the next level. I don't think he did, but I mean, there was a few guys on the offensive line too. Bailey Fernesiak, I played with him. He was the left guard next to me. He was one of the funniest guys I ever knew in high school. So I haven't talked to him really in a while. So that's kind of sad, but it definitely, he was a hell of a left guard. I remember, Bryce Schmiegel. Now it's a funny story, but I coached when I was helping NTAA. I coached Bryce when he was, got 8 or 9, maybe 10. I don't know. And next thing I know, it's my senior year of high school, and we're calling up Bryce as a freshman to play against Grand Island, and that was the game we clinched the playoff berth. And I remember lining up next to him, and that was kind of like either I'm old or it was a surreal, but man, I'm old now. And he, to this day, was one of the highest motor, overall one of the best offensive and defensive linemen I've been around. Just offensive defensive line is obviously you have to be strong, like physical, but it's you have to have a little like an edge and a motor to keep going. And Bryce had it. And I don't know. I don't think he ended up playing in college, but I always watched that kid, and he was a riot to play with, and he was good. And I don't know if like I said, there's a lot of guys in North Tonawanda that I don't know if they realized how good they could be or how good they were. But yeah, that was just a few names I can think of off the top of my head now. It's been a while. I'm getting old.
Yeah, you're what, 26, maybe 27 right now as we do this?
Yeah, 26, about to be 27 in June.
When did you realize that you could play at the next level?
Probably that's kind of funny because I've been asked that before. It's not a linear line. I think after my freshman year of high school, playing up with varsity and realizing that I could do it, you kind of have the thoughts of, yeah, I could play college. And then sophomore year happens, and some of my coaches tell me, you're big enough to play in college. We think you could play in college. And you're like, oh my God, I better call up Urban Meyer and Ohio State, and let's see what Nick Saban's doing next week. I bet he's going to come calling. And so I really was keen on it pretty early. I was ready to play at the next level. My sophomore year, I could have been an all SEC player for all I know. Then my junior year came around, and I started going to the camps. I went to University of Pittsburgh camp, and they had probably 40 or 50 Division I schools there. And then you start seeing the other Division I kids. and you have a quick realization of, oh boy, I'm not like that. I was good. I was a hell of a player and a good athlete, but then you start seeing that next level of guys, and you're like, man, am I really that good? And you are, but it's tough because I'm at the time I'm 6'3", 6'4", kind of like in that 300-pound range. And there's a guy who's 6'7", 330, and he ran a 4'8", 40, and you're like, whoa, okay, that's not real. That's not real. And that's why he's the guy who's at Ohio State. He's the guy at Alabama. So like I said, I knew I could play there quickly. I thought I could play higher than I did. I got brought back down to earth, and then I steadied out my junior and senior year when I kind of knew my place, I guess, in the college ranks.
Did you get any Division I offers?
Yeah, I got I think it was a total of five partial scholarships from Division I AA schools. I was getting looked at. Off the top of my head, I can think of Central Connecticut, University of Maine, New Hampshire, University of New Hampshire. No, that's off the top of my head. And we got the letters from Syracuse and UB, obviously. UB was on my list for quite a while. I thought that's where I was going to end up going, truly. And I ended up not going there, obviously. But I still have the letters all the letters I got from all the schools. I talked to the Harvard head coach, the Dartmouth head coach, Yale head coach, and I don't know why they were talking to me, but they were talking to me. And I ended up I didn't go to an Ivy League school, so obviously. But yeah, I still have letters. I got a letter from Michigan. That's my crown jewel. I get made fun of by my friends because I always tell them I got a letter from Michigan, and they joke around because the likelihood that I was going to Michigan was probably pretty small. But yeah, it was I got nothing, like I said, nothing how I thought it was going to be when I was 15. When I was 15-year-old me thought that they would be coming in left and right. I was going to be swimming in the offers, and I'd have 15 hats on the table on signing day. And then quickly you learn there's a lot of other schools in the country. And I'm glad I ended up where I did, though.
Well, why Edinboro?
Truth be told, I don't want to say I encourage everyone to go to Edinboro, Pennsylvania, because it's not really a travel destination. It is very, very, very much like North Tonawanda. It really is. And when you go there, you get that one main street where there's a bunch of stuff. So it kind of, obviously they don't have a Riviera, but they had that one big main street with all the stuff on it, and everywhere else there's some houses, and then there's a university, and you're like, whoa, look at this. And the people there too, I kind of took to some of them. A lot of the kids there, and obviously I knew this from playing there for multiple years, and I coached there for a year. A lot of the kids are kind of the same like background as me, like family wise, kind of, that middle class. We weren't millionaires, and I wasn't driving brand new cars when I was 16 and all these things. It was just a middle class families that love football, and that town loves football. So that it just hit me quickly. I was there, and my first visit was in January, I believe, and it was a snowstorm, and it was like 20 degrees. And I said, there it is. This is home. I know all about this stuff. So yeah, it was a pretty simple decision for me, honestly.
When you got there, when did the realities set in that this is no fun and games and this is business?
During the conditioning test on the first day. Didn't have to do conditioning tests in high school. And first day you're there, you go there, you hang around a little bit, you talk, everyone's all happy in meetings, and then they say, all right, let's get out to the field. We got our conditioning test. And it was 16 reps of 110-yard striders with 26 seconds in between or something like that. And after about 5, you feel like you're going to throw up. And that was probably the first moment that I was like, whoa, this is not high school football. Then obviously there was moments where you get hit that you really know it's not high school football. And honestly, those moments didn't really come until later in my freshman year. I thought I played well. in my camp of my freshman year. I played well enough to be traveling with the team right away. Wasn't starting right away, but by week 8, I was playing a lot. And week 10, I was starting. And there was I'll never forget the one of my first ever like college rep against a college defensive end as a left tackle was against a guy named Marcus Martin. Now, if you looked him up, he is the NCAA all-time sack leader. More sacks than anyone in Division I, II, III, anything. He's more sacks than anyone. It was against him, and it didn't go well. It didn't go well, but and that was, I guess, the moment where I don't know. In a way, it was kind of cool. It was kind of like, well, here we go. I mean, we're gonna get thrown into the fire. You might as well get to the hottest part. Like, let's do this. And I played against him for 2 years, and he got the best of me a few times, and I got the best of him a couple times. But that was, there were a few moments throughout my freshman year that hit me. Obviously, conditioning test being number one. That was horrible.
What's the biggest adjustment going from the high school game to the college game that you think that's the biggest adjustment?
I think it's all about speed. Game speed is totally different. And I mean, so for our spring practices, my dad, he'd venture out onto the field. A lot of the dads would do that down there. Like I said, it wasn't the big school vibes. It was very like, all right, you're, whatever. That's and they'd come down there, and he even said after spring ball of my freshman year, so between my freshman season and my sophomore season, that it was spring of 2016. He told me, he goes, I can't believe how fast it is. And it is. I played Division II football, and a lot of people, including me, for the longest time thought it's just Division II. I mean, come on. I saw the best athletes I've ever seen in my life. I saw the strongest, the fastest, everything. It's power, speed. There's no more thinking and then reacting. You got to think while you're reacting. It's a whole different ball game. Everything happens quick, and especially learning a playbook that was totally different from what I did in high school. God, you come from a high school that ran a triple option, and you're like, all right, here we go, and we're running spread offense now, and it's like, well, this is a little different. That was tough, especially learned that pretty quickly. But yeah, to me, the speed difference, and I challenge anyone who will say anything about Division II football to go watch a Division II football game between a couple good teams, and you'd be shocked. Those guys are Division I caliber players, but they're not Division I, I guess. I mean, it's I don't know, it's kind of funny to say, but there's some dudes in there, and they're good.
How much offensive lineman technique did you have to learn, or did you use anything from NT, or they scrapped that and you had to learn a whole new set of way of playing?
No, I mean, it was I attribute a lot of my easier the transition was easier for me. Scott Pilkey, he kind of took me in my junior year, helped me out, a lot of one-on-one coaching. And he coached for UB for a while. Now he's got his own company where he's doing a great job. A lot of his guys are going into colleges and getting recruited. And he's an awesome teacher, awesome guy. He builds more than your character in football. He builds like you in life, that was a big thing. You didn't even know it was happening, but it was happening, kind of thing. But yeah, he really, we spent hours together, and he cemented it into my mind, the new way to how I'm going to be doing things. And when I got into college, it was right away. I was getting compliments on footwork and all these things on how I was doing well, and it didn't take a lot of learning to do. And I said, I attribute it to learning from Coach Pilkey and all that, but it was, for the most part, I wouldn't say I learned. It wasn't. I knew what a kick slide was. I knew how to pass set. I mean, North Tonawanda wasn't that stuck in the stone age of triple option, so we were dabbling into a little bit of spread kind of thing. Especially when I got to my junior and senior year, when Chris was really developing as a passer and stuff like that, we could throw the ball more. but yeah, it was a transition. I wouldn't say it was totally hard, but it was easier because of some of the people I surrounded myself with before I went.
Do you have any regrets about your high school career or maybe your college career?
Um, High school, yeah. I never got to play a game at the stadium, and I never got to play for the sectional championship. That's the number one. And always it stings. It stung more years ago. Now I'm kind of like, whatever. I don't know. I mean, but in the moment, especially my senior year after we lost in the playoffs, that realization that for how many years I went to go watch NT at the stadium playing Orchard Park and Lancaster and all that, I wasn't going to be able to do that. And that hurt. I didn't. I regret. That's a big regret, obviously, and that's not a personal thing too. It's a team. It's a team game, so I can't put that on me. But yeah, that was high school. Definitely that. College, um, we never. Well, going to the playoffs, the Division II playoffs would have been a nice, I guess, treat. We got close my sophomore year. We were ranked 20. We were ranked number 24 in the country, and the top 24 teams made it. But there was already Division II has some weird rules that if there's a conference that's not in the playoffs, a Division II conference that's not in the playoff, in the 2014 playoff, then that conference will jump over. The winner of that conference will jump over any team that has multiple teams. So we had 4 teams from our conference in the playoff, us being the 24th team. The 27th ranked team didn't have any teams in the playoff from their conference, so they jumped in. So that hurt. I'm not gonna lie, that hurt. But yeah, that'd be my regret there. I don't know. I mean, now that you go to work every day and do everything, you always say like, man, I should have been better at football. I could have played in the pros and made millions of dollars, but obviously that wasn't in the cards.
Hey, speaking of money, what's your thoughts on the NIL deals that are going on now in football?
Well, I wish I was in college for that. You know what? I was always on the side of these. It's not so. And plenty of people would always say, "Well, you're getting a scholarship. You're getting a scholarship. Do you need the?" I mean, some of the NIL deals are insane. I mean, some of those guys make millions of dollars. But a lot of the scholarship players, they're getting school paid for. They gotta eat and live somewhere and drive a car. Hell, just go have fun with their friend. And you know what? A lot of those guys, for the longest time, weren't able to do that. So now I think it's a good thing. I think it's getting abused a little bit, especially by those upper echelon teams. You're seeing. I mean, Texas A&M they were paying everyone millions of dollars, and somehow they still weren't good. But I mean, I know I'm a big Ohio State fan, and I know this offseason, Ohio State went all in with the NIL money. They're giving a ton of money to a ton of people and they're buying they're going to buy a championship. And you know what? That's when it comes down to it. That's what it's going to turn into. I do think it needs to be regulated. I don't know how you're going to regulate it because how can you tell Ohio State to pay the same as Southern Missouri or something like that? That's not, they're not in the same realm. So I don't know. I think it's good for the players, obviously. I'm just excited that the NCAA, the video game is back. Now that players get get their money and stuff like that. The video game went away for 10 years and now it's back. So I'm happy about that.
What would you tell up and coming high school players if they wanted to go to the next level, what they need to do? Do you have a blueprint for them?
The number one blueprint, honestly, is surround yourself with people who know how to get there. Because until I really did that, I had no clue what it was going to take. I thought I was top dog. I'm better than everyone. Look at me. I'm bigger than everyone here. One of the bigger kids in Western New York. I thought I was going to beat up on people. And then you really get in, and it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. You really meet some of these guys who are legit, who are from big cities down in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and all that. You meet these guys and they're not it's not the same as I'll say it the big schools in like Pittsburgh, for example, because I was close to there in college. Those schools, those high schools, they're like colleges. Those guys are legitimate, got Division I players every year coming out of there. And I'm not going to knock Western New York because Western New York has plenty of great players. But I'll be honest with you, I never saw a kid that had played for some of the teams we played, especially in like Class A North, where when I was in there, that were even close to these kids. And it was an adjustment in itself to even realize that there are people like that. I mean, you see them on Saturday on TV, but when you go down and actually watch them, it's different. And they're different, and they have different ways of doing everything. And that's what my recommendation was: be different. If you're doing what everyone else is doing in high school, you're wrong, because that's going to make you a good high school player. You don't want to be a good high school player. You want to be a good college player. And the same thing goes in college when you get there. If you're stuck doing the norm, you're going to be normal. If you want to be better, do better things. I mean, that's just and it's always been that way. You hear stories all the time, especially like Tom Brady, for example. Julian Edelman obviously was one of the receivers for Brady. He had a podcast not too long ago where he said that you could always tell that he was doing something. We didn't know what it couldn't be. It could be something small, but he's doing something. He's bettering himself somehow, some way. So whether that's going to an extra weight room session or doing extra film study or extra speed work or something like that, that you gotta be extra. If you want to be extra good, you got to be extra when it comes to all the things that will make you good. And the number one thing that got me was surrounding myself with people who knew what it took. And because I didn't, I really didn't. And I owe a lot of what I am to my high school coaches. And that I'll forever be indebted to them. So
how important was it to be seen and participate in these college camps?
I will say very, 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 very important. Number one, and it's tough to really. You're not going to go there and embarrass yourself. You might not be as good as people. I knew I was, and that's another thing. You got to realize that you're going to these camps, and there's going to be guys that are better than you. There's guys better than you all over the country. No matter how good you are, there's somebody better than you, and that's just how it goes. And when I went to those camps, I might not have had the best camp at one of them I went to, but get your name out there. People see you, they see what they can develop. A lot of college coaches look at what they can develop you into, not what you are. So if they see a guy who's 6'6" and 300 pounds, they look at him saying, I bet we can make him into a good tackle. So then they go get him. And if they see a guy who's, this guy's 6'1" and 250, he's really good. He's dominating these guys. But is it going to translate here? And you might see that guy in high school, but man, he's so good. And then you find out he went and played at a small school, and you're like, how did he play there? It's like, because that's just how the college ranks works. They're not looking for a starter next year. They're looking for their starters in 3 years because they have starters next year. Those guys are already there. So yeah, they're important. I'm not going to say that you're not going to get recruited if you don't go to them, but in my opinion, you should. And if someone's telling you otherwise, you should surround yourself with other people.
When your college career was over with and you knew you weren't going any farther, how hard was it the first fall when the helmet was off and the pads were off and you're leading a normal life and there's no football in it?
Yeah, it was weird. I had an easier transition. So my last college season was fall of 2018. Fall of 2019, I stayed on and I helped coach Edinboro's offensive line tight ends. So I kind of stayed in it, I guess, in a way. So it was a little easier to manage not playing when you're seeing all the hell that those guys are going through, and and I'm no longer doing it. I mean, there's only so many times you can get whacked in the side of the head during a play that you want to line up again. I mean, and that's what it came down to when I was finishing up. I just had no desire to continue even trying to play on the next level. Even if I could have, I don't know if I could have. I may have been able to, but no desire at all to do it. was done with football. My time was up. I was ready to move on with my life. I was ready to sit down on a Saturday and watch Ohio State play, and then sit on a Sunday and watch the Bills play. And I love football, but toward the end of it, it became, especially I dealt with some injuries too, my senior year especially, and it became hard. You wake up every day and everything hurts, and your head hurts, and your knee hurts, and your neck hurts, and your back hurts, and then after a while, there's only so many things that can hurt before you're like, man, I'm done. And that's what I realized that probably midway through my senior year. And that's why I didn't have a hard transition. But I will say, as the years have gone on, I'm starting to get a little bit of a fire back. I would probably like to get back into coaching eventually. But it's been a nice step away for the past few years.
That 1 year from your senior year to when you stayed on, how difficult was it? You're going from one side of the line as a player to the other side of the line as you're a coach. And did the guys buy into what you were saying, or what was the general feeling that you had about it, and perhaps what these players were thinking?
It was funny. A lot of my best friends were still on Edinboro's offensive line at the time. So four of the groomsmen in my wedding were still on the offensive line when I was coaching. So that's a little tough, because you're going out and you're having fun with these guys, and then come Tuesday afternoon, I'm supposed to tell them what to do, and it was weird. It was a weird transition. They bought in. I mean, there was it was kind of tough, because playing in 2018 and then right away a lot of those. I mean, I'd probably say half the team I played with. So now you have to take orders from me, but now I have a voice and you have to listen to me or listen to what I'm saying now. So it was probably tougher for them more than anything, because I remember my senior year, the left guard who was next to me, he was a assistant offensive line coach my senior year. So when he would tell me something, whatever, shut up. Like, I don't need you to tell me that kind of thing. But you respect them enough to give them that time, and they all did. But it was weird. I'll tell everyone, the worst part was during the winter conditioning, when you're running it's 5 a.m. and they're running around and they're dying and they're throwing up, and I'm supposed to be the one telling them to keep doing stuff, and they're all looking at me like they want to hit me with their car when they're leaving. So that was the toughest part. The football part was easier than the conditioning part.
You talked about injuries. What type of injuries did you have through high school and college?
Let's see. High school, I dislocated my kneecap, my left kneecap. That was my junior year. I had a concussion in my senior year, mild. It wasn't anything bad. Then I went to college. I partially tore my patellar tendon in my right knee. I tore my lateral meniscus in my right knee. I partially tore my labrum in my left shoulder. I had a concussion. That's what I can think of now. Nothing major. I mean, I think we play 11 game seasons. I played so it would be 44 games. I played in 42. So I missed 2 games. Not bad.
If you don't mind me asking, how many surgeries did you had from all that?
0.
Really?
I'm up. Yeah, we had a great strength and conditioning and training staff there. Nothing was serious enough to get under a knife. There was times I wanted to take the knife and cut my leg off because it hurt so bad, but there were nothing overly serious. I got lucky with my patellar tendon. It was just a partial tear. Full tear would have required surgery, and that would have ended my season. But other than that, it was mostly play through it, figure it out. I mean, that's what I tried to play through a lot of stuff that maybe I shouldn't have, but I don't know. Nothing overly serious.
Is this myth or actuality? Guys won't talk about injuries or report injuries because they don't want to lose their spots on the field?
I think it's a legitimate concern. by the time I got to like my senior year, I wasn't truly like that worried about it. Obviously, at that time I've started 30 something games, so it's not. But yeah, honestly, as a freshman, you see it. You see guys who are building themselves up, get hurt, done for the season, and then they and never end up playing. Um, it's you can only fake or you can only pretend you're not injured so much because it's pretty easy to see, especially at the college level. When you're not, if you're not running like you should, we're gonna find out. So I will. It plays a role. I mean, you gotta try and play through stuff because you're trying to earn a scholarship. You're trying to stay on scholarship. You're trying to remain a starter. I mean, there's a bunch of incentives to keep, but it's pretty easy to spot with a lot of guys.
Is college medicine and training good?
Oh yeah, I Miss Danielle and Miss Audra are two trainers at Edinboro, and they're the greatest women ever. Next to my mom and my wife. I'm gonna put that in there. But yeah, they are unbelievable. They helped so much with everything that we could have done. Constantly there. I mean, you get hurt and you look up and it's like you see the white light and it's actually one of them coming at you. It's like, oh, there they are. I mean, they nicest ladies ever. I they helped me more than they would even know getting through some of the stuff I got through, especially injury wise. And they're you can go and talk to them. They're nice people, but yeah, that was a big step up that I never even knew or thought about was wow, these people. I mean, we got 5, 6, 7 people who have degrees that are and they're taking care of us now. Like, whoa. But yeah, that was a little bit better than high school.
You had a great NT football career. You have the pedigree, if nominated by someone or a former teammate, to enter into the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame. If that was the case and you were nominated and elected, what would that mean to you? I know it's a hypothetical question, but I got to ask you, and you're a young guy, and you've got the pedigree for it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's more of a it would be it would really mean a ton to younger me. And obviously it would mean a lot to me being obviously nominated for that and getting that. But if 7, 8, 9 year old me could see who's going to those games every week and watching those guys win and win a state championship, if you could tell that kid that one day you're going to be a North Tonawanda Football Hall of Famer, that would mean a lot to me. That would be, and like I said, that's when you're young and you're watching them, especially because I always say North Tonawanda, it was a little different, especially football wise, and I know a lot of people can attest to that. I mean, the stands are packed and there's tons of people, especially in those years that I was going. And it a great atmosphere. And that's what you always thought of. Like, I'm going to be down there someday. I'm going to be down there someday. So now I guess transform that into you were down there and you were one of the best at it. That's dream come true.
One more question I have for you. Did you prefer playing on turf or on natural grass?
I'll say grass, mostly because turf gets really, really, really hot. I don't know. I don't know if there's any former players listening or they know that. I mean, we had games that were on the turf were 110, 115 degrees. Grass doesn't soak in the heat like that. And grass hurts a lot less to fall on. So those are my 2 cents. I never noticed anything with footing, as I know that's a big thing in the NFL now with some of that turf is because it's with Achilles and ACLs and all these things. I never really noticed any of that stuff, but the things I noticed were it was really, really hot on it and it hurts like hell to fall on it. So grass is a little forgiving. It's nice.
We've talked about a lot of different things, and I appreciate you answering my questions. What would you like to talk about that I haven't brought up?
Um, I guess football wise, there's really
The forum is yours, pal.
football wise. I wouldn't. I don't know. I'm good football wise. I'll just say that I'm doing well. I got a beautiful wife and 2 dogs, and got my own house. I'm living great and got a good job. Everything's going good, and maybe one day I'll be back into the football reins a little bit. So we'll see.
You said that you don't keep in contact with some of your former teammates. Here's an opportunity to give them a message, because I'm sure some of them are going to watch. If not all of them are going to watch this video. So what would you like to say to them?
Reach out. I mean, I have no problem talking to. I mean, I still talk to some guys, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys back in then that I haven't seen a lot of kids from high school. Obviously, went away for college and kind of been doing my own thing for years. So I'm willing to talk to anybody. They were a big part of my life. Obviously, they were part of my life for at least 12 years. And we did a lot of things together. So hey, I'm open to anything.
The ones that you keep in contact with and you reminisce a little bit, how's your game about embellishing the stories and making them sound better and better each and every time you see these guys?
I tell you what, I'm getting real good at it, especially the high school ones. Man, you talk to me about my baseball career and all that. I was the greatest baseball player ever. I was the greatest football player ever. I don't know how I'm not playing on Sundays. So but you can only keep it like that a little bit, because then eventually some people figure it out and then they're like, "Oh, you weren't that good." And I'm like, "Oh, I was all right."
Alex Molik, I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing your memories, taking that trip down memory lane. I wish you well. Good luck with you. You're a young guy. Your future is all ahead of you. And perhaps it'd be a good thing if you get back into high school football coaching.
Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully life allows me for that, because like I said, I'm getting the itch a little bit. So thank you for everything, and thank you for everything you guys have been doing. It's been cool to watch everything that's been happening on the YouTube channel, and even with the old games and stuff like that. So I think that's awesome.
Alex, thank you so much. Be well.
Yeah, thank you.